The sky darkened like an old bruise, heavy with the promise of a storm. In the little town of Pine Ridge, perched on the edge of the Dakota Plains, nothing seemed to breathe life anymore. Houses stood like abandoned shells, and laughter faded long ago, swallowed by the cries of war. Amid this silence, one heart screamed the loudest, a widow named Mary. Mary was a shadow, a ghost haunting her own life. Since losing her husband Daniel to the chaos of a not-so-distant battle, grief wrapped around her like a fraying blanket. Each day felt like moving through thick fog, uncertainty clinging to her like dust from the dirt roads. She often found solace in her garden, coaxing life from the earth even while her own spirit withered. Sunflowers leaned toward the sky, heavy with seeds, yet each petal seemed to whisper secrets of a love once vibrant. On that fateful afternoon, the clouds rolled in, churning with energy, as if they simmered over unspoken tensions. Mary wandered down the deserted streets, feeling the weight of wary glances from neighbors, their eyes filled with suspicion and fear. Then, hidden away near an old, crumbling barn, she stumbled upon him, a wounded Lakota warrior, his body marked with struggles, yet his eyes burned with a fierce light that drew her in. "Please, help," he gasped, each word a plea that tugged at the very core of her being. The townsfolk warned against him. Their age-old grudges against the Lakota echoed in Mary's ears like the thunder building above. But something about the man held her, anchored her soul in a way she desperately needed. She knelt down, heart pounding, a battle within her as she reached out to him. As days turned into nights, Mary nursed him back to health. They forged a bond, sharing stories over the sputter of a fire. Shadows danced on the walls, weaving tales of loss and survival. His name was Waya, and as he shared fragments of his life, the world outside grew distant. Each revelation wove deeper connections, stirring memories of Mary's own heritage, long buried in the rush to conform. She learned Waya's past was entwined with her own pain. A loss, like her husband's, left gnawing wounds in their chests. But then came the rumble of horses, the sound echoing like doom through the emptiness. With his brothers returning, 300 strong, history's weight tightened around Mary's throat. Torn between the past and her longing for peace, she felt the storm inside her rise to match the one in the sky. Would she honor her people or choose the uncertain dream of unity with the man who stole her heart? Just as she mustered the courage to decide, a chilling noise broke through the surrounding trees. Footsteps. Each crunch in the underbrush sent shivers of fear coursing through her. Who was approaching? Would they bring safety or violence? Questions twisted in her mind like the wind whipping around her. What truth waited to be uncovered? And what sacrifices lay ahead? Hey, before continuing with this incredible story, I have to warn you. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Quickly check that red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's about to drop. And while you're here, give me a big thumbs up. That really helps with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love meeting every amazing person who's part of this community. Your support means everything. Let's stay connected. The sun dipped low, casting jagged shadows as Mary's heart pounded in her chest. Footsteps crunched on the dry underbrush, and she froze, breath catching in her throat. Adrenaline surged, her instinct screaming for her to run. Was it the townsfolk coming to snatch the last flicker of hope she found in Waya? Or something even more threatening? Waya struggled to sit up, pain shadowing his features. "Mary, stay back," he rasped, his voice barely above a whisper. But before she could reply, heavy silhouettes emerged from the trees. The low shadows of approaching riders grew clearer. The unmistakable outline of men, horses, and dark intentions. Her heart raced, confusion swirling as she stumbled back, gripping the bark of a nearby tree for support. Then everything exploded. Chaos, anger, shouts that danced on the wind. The men were wild-eyed and furious. Mary barely recognized them. They were familiar faces twisted by fear and hatred. "Get away from him," they shouted. "He's a monster." But what happened next sent shockwaves through her body. From behind the riders stepped a woman, something flickering in her eyes. Defiance or betrayal, Mary couldn't tell. Her long hair fell in messy waves, but it was the fury in her stance that captured Mary's attention. "Let him go! He's not your enemy!" Waya's voice reached for the impossible. But as Mary squinted through the unfolding chaos, her breath stopped. The woman lifted her chin defiantly. It was Anna, Daniel's sister. The sister Mary had thought was lost forever, presumed taken by the same war that stole Daniel from her. Anna was supposed to be dead. Anna? Mary managed to choke out, standing frozen in disbelief. Surrounded by noise, the world around her blurred into a backdrop of chaos. "You're alive!" Anna's fierce gaze shifted, finding Mary. For a moment, anger flickered with something else. Recognition, perhaps even a hint of love blurred by pain. "I survived, Mary, but not just as your sister-in-law. You need to know the truth about Daniel." Mary's head spun. The whispers of war, the lies that wrapped around Pine Ridge like a suffocating blanket, loomed large in the air. Mary had mourned her husband. She had wept for the love they shared, for a future that vanished like smoke. But which truth would shatter her heart once more? What truth, please? As Anna stepped forward, her words cut through the madness. "Daniel was in the fight against you, against everything you stand for." The air thickened around them, each word sharp and jagged. "He didn't die a hero. He died a traitor." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Mary's chest felt tight, like a vice squeezing her heart. The world tilted, and she could barely catch her breath. "No, it can't be," she whispered, shaking her head, denial swirling within her like a raging tempest. "He wouldn't." But Anna stepped closer, the hurt spilling from her dark eyes. "He chose them. They offered him power, a chance to make a difference." And now, she broke off, pain cutting through her voice. "He's dead, and you're still acting like you can find peace with this man?" She gestured sharply at Waya. Panic surged, and Mary staggered back, reality crashing around her like a wave. Everything she had felt for Waya, every shared moment, felt tainted by this new reality. Then, in the thickening tension, Waya spoke, his voice steady against the storm. "Mary, listen to me." But his words faded into the background as Mary struggled with her thoughts, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. As the skies darkened around them, the storm finally broke, rain pouring down in sheets, drenching the chaos before her. Mary's world twisted, truths shattered, love unraveled, leaving her in a storm of confusion powered by the weight of her choices. And as thunder rolled above, she was left standing, heart racing, caught in a tempest of love, betrayal, and secrets. What would she choose? Who could she trust? And most importantly, could she still fight for peace in a world built on treachery? Rain unleashed its fury, drenching the chaos. Mary stood frozen, tears mixed with raindrops, washing away everything she thought she knew. Anna's words echoed in her mind, each repetition deepening the wounds. Daniel, a traitor? It felt like a dagger to the heart, twisting painfully. Waya's voice struggled against the tempest. "You have to trust me, Mary." But trust slipped through her fingers like the rain. The crowd closed in, fueled by anger and fear. Murmurs danced like shadows, suspicion flicking in every glance. "She's lost her mind," someone shouted. Another voice called, "He's just a pawn." Suddenly, a loud crash split the air, shaking the ground beneath Mary's feet. A flash of lightning illuminated the faces around her, revealing wild eyes and clenched fists. The atmosphere thickened with tension, like the charged air before a storm. In the chaos, Mary felt the weight of betrayal pressing down, her heart pounding like the thunder above. Out of the corner of her eye, a swift movement caught her attention. A figure emerged from the crowd. The silhouette moved with uncanny grace, cutting through the chaos like a shadow rifling through the night. All eyes turned, some in wonder, others in fear. "What now?" Mary whispered, her breath hitching as the figure approached. With a flick, the cloak fell back, revealing a face that made Mary's blood run cold. It was Thomas, her old neighbor, the one she had always seen as a friend, now standing as a threatening storm cloud over their fragile gathering. His eyes glinted with a malevolence she had never known. "Mary, you've made a grave mistake," he said, his voice steady, a terrifying calm in the whirling storm. "This man, he doesn't deserve your love. You have no idea who he really is." Mary's heart sank, confusion and dread boiling within. "What do you mean?" His lips curled into a sly smile, one that twisted her insides. "Wyatt is not who he claims to be. His past is darker than you can imagine. He's a traitor too, but to a different cause. The same men who took Daniel from us, they took him as well." "No!" Mary's voice cracked, desperation clawing at her. "You're lying!" "No, Mary, you're the one living the lie." Thomas stepped closer, his presence suffocating. "Wyatt was never just an innocent warrior. He has blood on his hands, blood of people just like you, just like Daniel." Wyatt's eyes blazed with anger, but there was a flicker of something else. Fear? "That's not true. I've fought for my people. I would never betray." "You don't have a choice," Thomas cut him off, rage rippling through the crowd. "You're tied to a fate you can't escape. The battles you fought, they were never about honor. They were about betrayal." It felt like the ground shifted beneath Mary. A rift opened in her heart as she looked between Wyatt and Thomas. Could it be true? Was she ensnared in a web spun by lies, by love misdirected? Each pulse of thunder mirrored the chaos in her mind. "Stop it!" Mary screamed, pleading with everyone and herself. I can't take this anymore." But as she spoke, a deafening roar erupted from the trees. The conversation faded into gasps as a group of warriors emerged from the shadows, Lakota, carrying weapons, their eyes filled with fury. They locked onto Wyatt, and Mary felt dread creep up her spine. "Wyatt!" she called, but her voice was lost in the rising tide of conflict. From behind, the sound of hooves thundered, a wild stampede of chaos racing toward them. In a moment, the world spun, friends and foes twisted together in an unstoppable wave. The rain intensified, swirling around them as they faced an uncertain fate. "Mary, run!" Wyatt shouted, but panic gripped her like ice. In the whirlpool of emotion and chaos, the truth about love, loyalty, and betrayal blurred. The storm raged on, both outside and within, leaving Mary torn between trusting a heart she thought she knew and facing the darkest truths about those she held most dear. What was she willing to sacrifice to uncover the real story? Would it take everything she had to find out what lay beneath the surface? And who could she still believe when trust began to crumble? The storm roared around them, the rain hammering down like 1,000 fists against the earth. Mary's heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. Waya shouted for her to run, but her feet felt glued in place, staring at the chaos that unfolded. The tension crackled in the air like static, each face a canvas of fury and confusion. Suddenly, from the mass of angry townsfolk and warriors, a familiar voice cut through the storm, sharp and commanding. It was Tomas, the sheriff of Pine Ridge. "Everyone, stand down!" he yelled, cutting through the noise like a knife. His authority had a way of silencing the fiercest storms, but there was something different today. His face twisted with dread, eyes darting between Mary and Waya. "Tomas," Mary called, her voice strangled by the choking fear that wrapped around her throat. "You—" But before she could finish, the ground vibrated as the first flash of lightning streaked across the sky. The shadows seemed to deepen, drawing everything into its eerie embrace. Then came the awful moment of realization. A figure broke through the warriors, and Mary's blood ran cold. It was Daniel, the man she mourned, the husband she thought lost forever. There he stood, alive but changed, clad in dark clothing, eyes wild with a manic glint, as if the storm had awakened something primal within him. "Mary!" he shouted, his voice rising above the thunder, raw and filled with desperation. "You have to listen to me!" Time froze, the world shattered. Mary's breath hitched, disbelief cloaking her in a thick fog. You're alive?" she whispered. But confusion swirled. Somehow, he looked both familiar yet foreign at the same time. "Let him go! You're not safe!" Daniel's gaze shifted to Waya, fury igniting like wildfire. "He's the enemy! All those lies you fell for, he's one of them!" "No, that's not true!" Mary cried, stepping closer to Waya, her heart tearing. "He's fought for us, for peace." But Daniel advanced, pushing through the crowd with an intensity that left no room for doubt. "Peace, you don't understand what's been happening. They will destroy everything we have." His voice broke, vulnerability seeping through his passionate plea. "I fought against them too, until I understood the truth." Mary's heart sank deeper, caught between the man she had loved and the man she was learning to trust. What truth? She felt small and lost as the rain drummed on her skin like a warning. "They've manipulated you, all of us," Daniel said, stepping forward. "Waya isn't just a warrior. He was trained to infiltrate, to destroy from within. They took me, forced me to join them, to play my part. I did it to survive, just like Waya. And you need to see that, Mary." Stunned, Mary looked back at Waya, searching his eyes. They flickered with a mix of anger and regret. "No, Mary, I would never fight against you." His desperation clawed at her thoughts. "I've lost so much. I'm not a traitor. I've lost my family to this fight too." The storm raged on, but the storm inside Mary raged even louder. What was real? Who was telling the truth? Each heartbeat thundered in her ears as she grappled with the chaos around her. Then, without warning, Daniel pointed a shaking finger at Waya. "He's one of the ones responsible for everything, for my betrayal. It was him who took the information that led to the attack." Gasps echoed through the crowd. Each face transformed from fury to shock, disbelief written across their features. Mary felt the world tilt, her reality splintering as a hurricane of emotions formed inside her. "Waya, is it true?" she demanded, the lump in her throat tightening. "Is he right?" Before Waya could respond, the sky flipped dramatically, brighter than it had been all night. A flash of light illuminated the area. In that blinding moment, Mary saw something flash against Waya's arm, something metallic, glinting, a dagger. Panic surged up within her, unending and electric. "Get away from him!" she shouted, instinct kicking in. The crowd gasped collectively, and yet, amid the chaos, Mary felt like she was gasping for air. "Mary," Waya's voice rasped, thick with desperation. I can't explain, please." But before he could finish, Thomas's voice blared out again. "Mary, he's dangerous! You're in danger!" Tension hung heavy in the air, a cosmic crossroads where truths collided. As the rain poured down, Mary stood at the center of a storm that threatened to tear everything apart. Whispers of betrayal echoed around her, fears awakening ancient rifts in her heart. With her mind spinning, Mary felt the weight of decisions pressing down on her. The next moment could unravel everything. Did she have the strength to uncover the real story before it was too late? And as she faced the two men who had become the pillars of her world, a question gripped her heart. Could love happen amidst a war fought on lies? The storm raged, lightning flashing bright against the dark sky, illuminating everything in stark relief. Mary stood paralyzed, caught between Daniel and Waya, her heart thundering in her chest. "You're wrong, Daniel! Waya is—" She faltered under the weight of doubt, her voice trailing off. "Mary, please," Waya pleaded, pain etched across his features. "Trust me." But behind them, the crowd murmured, voices rising in a cacophony of fear. "What if he's telling the truth?" someone whispered. "What if he's playing you?" The question hung in the air like the weight of the storm. Before Mary could respond, the earth shook beneath her, a low rumble echoing through the soil. Confusion spread through the crowd, eyes darting as everyone recoiled. And then came the sound, like thunder, but not from above. The ground split open, and from the darkness, something emerged. A cloud of dust billowed, choking on the damp air like a warning. "What is happening?" Mary gasped, her heart racing faster than the wind. Then the ground erupted, and in an instant the world transformed. From the chaos, a massive shape surged forward. An armored vehicle, monstrous and roaring, its engine roaring like a dragon. It barreled down the path, sending dust and debris flying, shattering the tension and silence like a glass dropped on the floor. "No!" The cry erupted from Daniel. Panic lined his voice as the vehicle screeched to a stop just feet away, blocking any escape. Its metallic shell gleamed ominously in the lightning, intimidating all who looked on. Mary's stomach twisted with dread. "Mary, get away from him!" Daniel shouted, trying to pull her back, but she stood frozen, eyes locked on the vehicle as the door opened with a hiss. A figure emerged, cloaked in black, face obscured by a helmet. The aura around them was terrifying, like darkness spilling into light. The crowd fell silent, all eyes drawn to the newcomer. It was as if fate had paused, holding its breath. "Who are you?" Mary shouted, but her voice felt weak against the roaring storm. The figure stepped forward, revealing a familiar glint, the insignia of the very regiment that had haunted Pine Ridge. Gasps rippled through the assembled people. "This ends now," they declared, voice booming, echoing with authority. Mary's heart dropped. "No, no, it can't be." The figure slowly pulled off the helmet, revealing a face Mary knew too well. Tomas. "It's been too long," he said, eyes cold, a twisted smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "And I have a story to tell." Stunned silence engulfed them. Everything changed in that instant. Tomas? A traitor? Mary's vision blurred, confusion clouding her thoughts. "You?" she breathed, barely able to comprehend. He stepped closer, looking straight into her eyes. "Oh, Mary, you have no idea how deep this goes. The war, the betrayal. It's all connected. Mary's legs wobbled, faintness creeping in. The crowd stirred uneasily, whispers sending anxious ripples among them. "You were the enemy?" someone gasped. And then, as if scripted by fate itself, he revealed a device from his pocket. A small black box that pulsed like a heartbeat. "This is a detonator," Tomas said with a manic edge, holding it high for everyone to see. Panic erupted, chaos devouring coherence, everyone scrambling for cover, as the storm raged again. "No!" Mary screamed, lunging forward, desperate to snatch the device from his hand. But just as she reached him, she felt a sharp tug at her arm. Daniel had pulled her back. "Don't!" he shouted urgently, eyes wide with fear. "He'll do it, Mary." In that moment, everything shifted. Daniel, the man she loved, Waya, the man she trusted, Tomas, a friend turned foe. Their worlds shattering around her, Mary could feel her heart pounding, thrumming with dread. Who could she believe? What line had been drawn in the sand? And as the storm unleashed its fury above and the crowd descended into panic, she realized that everything she thought she knew was just a web of lies, ties fraying, truths hidden beneath layers of betrayal. "Mary!" Waya shouted, desperate eyes finding hers through the chaos. "You have to choose now!" A voice screamed from the crowd, punctuated by the crashing thunder. "You have to decide, who will you trust?" In the eye of that storm, everything hinged on her next move. Would she risk it all to expose the truth behind Tomas? Or would she cling to the love and trust she still hoped to find in Waya? The questions hung in the air like the rain that poured down, drenching her in uncertainty. And then the world fell silent for a split second, the eye of the storm approaching. What would she choose? And who would be left standing when the storm finally passed?